do we work out healthy boundaries at work? Hello everyone, welcome to Signpost of Living with Dr. Kirsten Hunter, and we've got gorgeous Kristen Coggan here. Hello darling.
Hello.
Now, when I said let's talk about boundaries at work, you said, what are we talking about? And that's a valid question. Yeah. And, I wanted to talk about this because it keeps coming up, this issue of how do you work out how much you share in the workforce, what are the pros and cons, and, where do you draw the line? And where, where does it step beyond, what's helpful and beyond what's professional? And it's kind of an interesting topic. Yeah.
Yes. How long is a piece of string?
Because we mentioned this a moment ago, and you just said that it depends on the work culture.
And the team and, who you're with, what you do.
Yeah.
It can vary.
It can. So here's a thought. I think it's really great for team building for people to know who they're working with. Yes. And to have a clue what's happening in their life to the degree that you choose to disclose. And, if we're having a good day, great. If we're not, obviously it's up to us, but we share to the degree that we want to. But then there's some people that go too far with it.
Yes.
And have you seen that? So,
look, I'm a sharer.
Bring it on.
So I don't actually register if someone's saying too much, because I just think it's all knowledge and it helps, and that's my take on it in my life experience in workplaces.
I've noticed that often the extroverts and the introverts have very different approaches. Crudely speaking, so the extroverts will come together and they'll want to kind of download on what's going on for them, touch base, feel like they're connected, and then they get into their day. The introvert might come along and that's not really potentially at their forefront of their mind, and they might get into work and you might get snippets of what's going on for them.
Because I guess it depends. So it's always about me, and I feel really self-conscious when I do that.
That's what we're here for. You're my guinea pig.
I only know.
You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. And I only know about
only
me.
because I find you so interesting.
So for me,
yeah,
I find it really hard if I've got something really good going on in my life, equally something really bad going on in my life. I find it really hard to hit 8:30 in the morning and just forget it and wipe it. So it does affect my day.
And so if you're able to share it, how does that help you?
Well, I don't share it with anyone and everyone, but if I'm working closely with someone and I feel that something, like just say I'm in a really bad mood because something stressy's happening or whatever, I might give them snippets just so that they have a bit of an understanding, because I worry about, because I have trouble turning it off, I could be coming across a bit salty, and I don't want anyone to think I'm salty with them.
It's not you, it's me.
That's right.
So you want to kind of let them know why you're not in a great mood.
Yeah, so I wouldn't make the announcement first thing in the morning to the entire team, but if I felt that I had to work with someone closely enough that they would pick up on something, I would probably disclose just enough, not everything, like I don't have a therapy session with them, but disclose enough that they know something's going on and have a vague idea, and then we move on.
I find it really interesting where, on the one hand, it's okay to have mental health days. If we're not up to the task, taking time out for yourself is very responsible, and we're not always going to be okay. But there are some people where they might find it hard to, more days than not, park what's happening in their personal life and get their head into the head role.
Yeah, I find that really hard.
Yeah? Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? So how do you find that role? How do you that line? How do you be about work, which you're there to do and to perform, and not bring your personal life too much into it? And what's professional, what's not, what's sharing, what's too much sharing? It's a really interesting thing, and I think I love talking about things we don't talk about. Yeah. Have you ever had anyone where you've thought, this is not great?
Like they're sharing too much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I have when I've worked, sometimes the younger generation
right.
can overshare.
Yeah.
And I feel that I can deal with that, but I can see others around me maybe getting uncomfortable. So you've got to be able to pick up. You've got to be a bit smart about it. Does it?
Yeah. And I think there's also a small proportion of people that exploit, where they might have a few personality traits and they are enjoying having the drama and the audience, and they're not really on track much of the time, you know. And I think the rest of the work team can start to get quite tired of that level of, you know, not being okay, and they start to become query, you know, like suspicious, whether it's, you know, cry wolf. So there's that side as well.
Yes, that's exactly, and people get sick of it. So as you know, like I've got 2 lives that I lead. And, you know, one on the property that we manage and my ordinary day job, plebby job that I've got on the other side of my life. So they're both very different environments. And so on one side I'm like a manager in a managerial role and looking at it with that lens. And, you know, you have a policy of what goes on in your personal life's your personal life. But we want people to be safe, and we're in an industry where people need to be on the ball. So if something's worrying somebody, if someone's got a worry or a problem and it's affecting them, well, then we kind of do want to know about it, so we can give them the space and look after them, and not expect too much from them. But then that becomes hard on everybody else too. Like it's just, to me, the whole where are the boundaries set. I think it's got to be really bespoke for different workplaces, different cultures, different jobs, different people, different teams.
And I think an authentic voice is so important. You know, that it is really important to hopefully feel safe in the workplace and come and say, you know, I'm great or I'm not travelling well, and to have that supportive role, but not for anyone to exploit that.
Yes.
And I think that's the line that I see. And you know, it can go well or it can go wrong.
Do you know what I find? This is interesting. Well, it is to me. Might not be to you or anybody else.
Let's give it a whirl.
These days, you know, like you should be able to go to work, and if you're having an issue, it's not anybody else's business either. So on the other side of the fence, people are nosy and they want to know. And if they're not knowing, instead of just getting on with their job, they concentrate on somebody else's problems or lives or what could be, and they start gossiping. Like, I just find it, I know it's human nature, but I also find it odd that it just happens so much. Like, it's got nothing to do with you or me. It's not.
And there's the choice to share,
get on with it.
But it's not really someone else's entitlement to presume to.
That's right. So
no.
The other side of the thing, people have got to understand that everyone's boundaries are different. So nobody has to. Their boundary might be really tight, and they don't want to let anybody in, and that's okay too.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting for me. You can tell how I'm travelling based on how much I share. So, you know, when I went through a divorce many years ago, I didn't tell a soul at all at work, right? So then 6-9 months later, I might be touching base with people, and they might be colleagues, they might be clients actually, and they'll say, oh, you know what's going on, and I'll say, oh, this is, and I'll kind of mention the current status, and I'll be like, what? Like, I've seen you.
Whoa!
I've seen you in that time, and not a word.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm looking after myself.
Yes.
And I'm not about public sharing while I'm dealing with things delicately. And then when everything is settled and calm, then I'll share. Whereas if I'm kind of travelling really well, I'm pretty goofy and I'm pretty open. And my disclosures are, you know, appropriate, I hope, but they're very generous.
Okay.
But they're very generous at that point, you know.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting. Also, when I'm stressed, I'm a workaholic. You know, I put my head down and I really go hard, and I find that I like disappearing from my stresses into work.
Yes.
And so I find it really interesting when people might come to work and they're so opposite to me, which I respect the difference, but I can't relate. It's interesting how everyone responds. You know, I finished my PhD because I had 6 months of acute depression. It was great, you know. get work
Of
done.
course you did.
Yeah, well, that's...
The rest of us have 6-month acute depression and, we're flat out having 3 showers in that time. But no, you get a PhD.
Well, disappear from your head, get stuff done, feel good.
I do know, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to talk about this. I think it's really, really interesting. I think it's something to just be mindful of.
Yes, exactly. It's thought-provoking, isn't it? And I think you can just be a little bit sensitive to others and respect.
And it goes both ways,
boundaries.
isn't it?
Yes,
Being mindful and respectful of the person who might be having a tough time, but also mindful of the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, hey?
It's so interesting.
There you go.
See, everyone should be working with us. We're all over it.
Well, thank you so much, darling. So if you want to catch me online, we've got the website KirstenHunterAuthor.com, Facebook and Instagram Kirsten Hunter Author, and TikTok Dr. Kirsten Hunter. Thank you, darling. Appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.